Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter, and with time on our hands, I thought it might be fun to daydream about the next Monster Hunter game, and list up what I personally hope it will have. This is more of a fun thought exercise and listing out the things that I love most about older and current Monster Hunter games, along with stuff that I'd love to see. I'm going to stick to the larger features instead of talking about small minute ones, so if something's not mentioned here, it doesn't mean that I don't want it. First off, platform, Nintendo Switch. I realize that a lot of the displeasure that I have with Monster Hunter World Iceborne, despite it being a phenomenal game, is that it's a home console game. I want a Monster Hunter that I can play in bed, in the same room with other people, on the go when I commute to work, and over my lunch breaks. The Switch is the obvious answer to that desire. While many people will say that multi-platform would be the best, I fear that having the dedicated home consoles in the mix would hold back the game design on embracing decisions that are specifically tailored to portable play. Plus, I can't see them putting anything on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X that isn't at or above the same graphical level that we saw in Iceborne, which is something that the Switch definitely cannot do. The Monster Hunter team has always done a great job of focusing on the marriage of software and hardware when it comes to the games, and I have no doubt that a dedicated focus on the Switch would make for a better experience overall. And now for some changes from Monster Hunter World and Iceborne that I would love to see return. First, of course, no loading between maps. This was a fantastic change introduced in World. In previous games, the maps were crafted using different areas that, while connected, made each area feel like a separate arena. If the monster was in an area that was tough to fight it in, there was no way to lure it out except to dung bomb it and then wait for it to leave. The loading between the maps also led to some weird carts where you couldn't see what was happening in the area with the monster, and then when you left or you got kicked out and you re-entered, you'd walk right into an attack and that would cart you, which is unfair. Next up, damage being displayed. At first the idea seemed weird to me, but I ended up loving this change. Not only does it help educate you when you're hitting the tough part of a monster, but it also makes you feel rewarded when you do a powerful attack or a strike on a weak spot. Anything that helps communicate to the player when they're doing something right or wrong is a good design change. Next up, fast item gathering. I cannot imagine they will ever go back to how it used to be done, but being able to snatch items fast and auto-combine is a fabulous change that they made in World. In past games it would feel almost taboo to stop and gather during a quest, but in World you can do both, which is great. Getting rid of tools that you are required to have in order to gather was also a good change that I hope and assume will be a new staple of modern Monster Hunter games. Monster tracking. This could be done through tracking bugs or something else, but changing from paintballing a monster to tracking it more intuitively was absolutely refreshing. The struggle should be the battle against the monster, not trying to find it. Backwards evade. Overall, the combat had some nice changes in Monster Hunter World, my favorite change being the ability to evade backwards after an attack. It's so weird. Go back to the previous games, you'll swear that you've always had the ability to do this, but you don't. Not being able to backwards evade greatly limits your mobility, and it's surprising that we ever got used to it, honestly. Now, while I don't want to go into detail on elements that I feel are the core features of World that should not move to the next Monster Hunter game, some of them would include stuff like the Clutch Claw, mantles, the ability to restock items as much as you want during a quest, free items through trading prints, and decorations as drops instead of being craftable items. Now moving on to things that I want to see return from previous Monster Hunter games. Colorful, high contrast visuals. I love the colorful nature of the previous games, and it would be a great way to help distinguish it from that sort of gritty, realistic home console game versions if the next Monster Hunter game was for Switch and returned to this artistic design. Next would be goofy, quirky humor. While Monster Hunter World and Iceborne certainly has a lot of cute and goofy moments, there's something lighthearted about the previous games that was sort of woven into every aspect of the game design that I miss. I can't really put my finger on one or two specific things, it's more of an overall feeling and vibe that the previous games were just a little bit more quirky than something like Monster Hunter World or Iceborne. Next up, solo quests. I like how online and offline was separate in the previous games, and I think the portable nature of this sort of encouraged it. It gave very clear goals to the player when they were alone or when they were with friends, and it encouraged Capcom to make a lot of different quests that you can choose to go on. If the next Monster Hunter game is on the Switch, this would make a lot of sense to go back to. 4-person hubs. There's something personal about a 4-person hub. While I think the ability to rejoin if you got disconnected is a much needed feature that they have to include, I think that quests should have to start with all players present. Heading out together and back together, be it through victory or loss, helps create a bond between the players that you simply cannot get if quests are treated like a convenience store with people jumping in and out. Finally, less clutter in maps. It makes a lot of sense that maps were densely populated with objects in World and Iceborne, as that was the core feature of the game. But I'd love to see a return to a world that has more bare ground and less visual clutter. This would allow the focus to go back to the monster, and that boxing match feeling is one of those elements that got me addicted to Monster Hunter in the first place, where you're in a beautiful sort of environment, but it's really you and the large monster going at it. Okay, now for new features, here's what I'd like to see. Number 1, new monsters. Now when I say new, I mean something that feels unlike anything that we've seen before. Like how Monster Hunter 4 had the snake-like Najarala, flying insects, and a sumo-slamming toad, having a cast of monsters that are not only new, but present a lot of new gameplay opportunities would be great. In fact, I think this is even more important than adding in a new weapon, as the core gameplay really revolves around the monsters and how unique they feel to hunt. Number 2, a unique and fully themed world. I love the village and world of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which was Yukumo Village. That's because it had a very unique aesthetic and culture that you could feel within the town, the different features of the game, and the surrounding map, and even the monsters. The whole world of that game is tied together by its cohesive design and feel, and this is what I'd love to see in the next game. The main hub town should have a distinct culture that is reflected in the artistic design, the events and actions of the characters that populate the world, the music of the world, you name it. I want to feel like I'm in a completely different and isolated place from the real world. For example, I like the characters of Monster Hunter World, but I don't feel like life in Astera is that different from the real world, and because of that, it's not an aspirational town that I would dream of being in. Yukumo, on the other hand, is a town that I want to live in. The Caravan from Monster Hunter 4 is a group I'd love to travel with. When I come home from a long day at work or stressful stuff in my daily life, I want to escape and enter in a fantastical, colorful world that is warm and interesting. I think finding the aesthetic and culture of the world will also go into that colorful and quirkiness note that I previously mentioned. And finally, and I know this is kind of a cheat answer, but I want what I don't know that I want. I want the unknown. I want something so different that I haven't even thought about it. Like, no one expected underwater in the 3rd generation of Monster Hunter games, or even the crazy addition of elevation in the 4th generation, or playable feline hunters in Generations Ultimate. I'm excited by the idea that Capcom always seems to find something new that will change the way the game is played, and to make the next title feel absolutely unique. Something distinct, not predictable, that's what's on the menu and what I can't wait for. Anyways, that's what I want in the next Monster Hunter game. I know a lot of this is just wishing, thinking, and stuff like that, but I'm curious to know what you guys feel down in the comments below. It absolutely tickles me with excitement thinking that they may have 2 teams, and the way they might do it going forward is that we have Monster Hunter World and Iceborne on the console, and that team will continue working on the next console game for like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X PC, and we'll have another team focusing on portable. Like maybe we'll have a Switch series of games where we have a brand new generation that spawns off there. Can you imagine that? We have 2 different teams where like every year and a half we get a new Monster Hunter game. How awesome would that be? Anyways, I'm just absolutely excited for the next Monster Hunter game. I have no idea what it's going to be. I wouldn't expect anything to even be announced until Iceborne runs its full course, which I think would be a full year since its release. So I don't know, maybe we'll see something by the year end. I'm suspecting we'll get a hint at least to what, platform or what the concept might be. Maybe a concept video like they did for Monster Hunter 4 would be cool, where they just showed a sort of, proof of concept video of something brand new and they didn't give any more details. That would be okay as well, because I cannot wait for us to enter that awesome phase where we're just totally excited and we're talking about rumors or ideas and, analyzing every little screenshot that they share. That phase of like the year before a new Monster Hunter game comes out, or like half a year, that is the best feeling. I think that's when the community is at its best, most positive, and it's just fun as all get out. One thing I will say, parting words, is though I know I wasn't a very heavy content creator for Monster Hunter World, is not nearly as much as I was in previous games, That's because it was a home console game and my lifestyle just makes it a little difficult. If the next game is on the Switch, then my life is over because I'm going to cover it like crazy. Anyways, that's enough rambling on from me for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit like if you did, and until next time, happy hunting. And happy hand washing too.